So, welcome aboard to Bring It In, TrueHoop's little Zoom from Quarantine Show. There's David Thorpe. How are you, sir?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Oh, I'm great. I'm a whole new guy. You can probably tell. You don't even need me to tell you, but I've switched to an electric toothbrush.
Oh, wow.
I mean, these babies have never been close to this clean. Like, it's delightful. I'm sleeping better. Like, it's just the best.
There's a great Seinfeld episode where Jerry tries a new one and is blown away that as he's explaining it to Elaine how good it is, she doesn't seem all that interested. He doesn't understand. Like, I'm telling you, it's the greatest toothbrush of all time. And, she was just kind of nonplussed about it. So, yeah, now you sound like Jerry Seinfeld.
I go to the friendliest dentist in the world. They're like, like in a minute, I'm going to floss. You may feel a little pinching. I'm like, like we're good. Like but and then there's the nicest way, 6 months ago, they're like, you should really get an electric toothbrush. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'll totally do that. And then I did not do that. And then I just went back and they just couldn't be nicer. But they're like, it appears that you didn't actually get an electric toothbrush. And they brought it up and it does the perfect kind of soft, kind of pushy way where I just felt terrible that I literally was just like,
What'd you get?
Well, I got the exact one they told me to get.
What is it?
Sounds like a commercial, but they like a round-headed brawn, David. That's what we got.
Okay, so I'm getting it. I'm gonna get one.
There you go. Randy says nothing like hygiene is shame. It is powerful shame. I used to have it. We used to go to a dentist I didn't like as much, and the hygienist was extremely aggressive, and I just ignored everything she said. But now, I really like them, and I don't want to hurt their feelings. So.
This is a difficult conversation for me because Novocaine doesn't work on me, and so the few times I've had to actually deal with things in my face and my jaw, I had cancer in my salivary gland. Novocaine doesn't deaden pain for more than a second with me. So I've had a filling once without Novocaine. So think about that.
I would recommend like the full, like Michael Jackson sleep drugs.
Yeah, they put you to sleep now. Yeah.
Get the whole
if ever needed anything. I haven't had it in a long time, but
okay. So we're really gonna sink into some Blazers topics later on. That's where we're headed. But first, a couple of hors d'oeuvres. You probably saw this Stephen Curry practice shot, but here he is, like 10 rows up in the exit of the arena with a terrible angle, and he just freaking drains
it. He's dancing too. It's awesome. Yeah. So I know that you fancy yourself quite a cornhole player. This is information I just learned.
Yeah.
And we were, and more seriously, we were talking about the ESPN tournaments where you see college kids or grown up professional cornhole players. Some people are just really good at throwing stuff into other places, and he happens to be the best of all time. Yeah. Remember, I've told you this one before. Remember, they did an autopsy on Secretariat, the greatest horse ever in terms of horse racing. And they found that his heart was twice as big as, or maybe 1.5 times as big as the typical thoroughbred racehorse. So it's almost like cheating because that horse is pumping oxygen into the muscles way better than any horse they'd ever measured before. I have a feeling one day if they ever really studied the hand-eye coordination and or whatever it is, depth perception that Curry's eyes give, he's just operating at another level as a human being above the rest of the world. That's what I think.
I actually had a little basketball training question for you seeing that, which is, he takes a lot of shots with his same form, but this one he two-hand lobbed. Like, what's the strategy?
My guess is he needed both arms to push and not one. You shoot the ball typically with one hand. Yeah. Your left hand's a guide hand. It comes up to your right.
Right.
And I think he needed both, like a Kevin Love outlet pass.
Right.
He needed two. He could have baseball thrown it, but only one hand. His probably hands aren't huge. It's going to go left to right too much. He somehow miraculously. Yeah. By the way, you're right. It's amazing that he could do that with two hands. But still, most people with two hands, even if they could reach the rim, which most people can't, they can't gauge the depth of it. It's just, my guess is he's done it before too, by the way.
Okay. So do you know of anyone who practices the heave with two hands?
Oh, sure. Yeah. In fact, it's pretty common when you're younger. I guarantee you Steph Curry has been shooting half-court shots for about 20 years plus, maybe 30 years. And he couldn't reach the rim from half court when he was little. So no, people heave him at the end of practice, but do people designate time in practice? Like, you know what I mean? Is it like actually a honed skill beyond horsing around? Like, do you coach? I mean, not from the second level, but oh, sure, you can get better.
You coach it?
Better.
Do you coach it?
No, but They do enough where I always say, when you're strong enough to reach the rim from half court, try to make it feel like a regular shot. At least you have some control that way. Yeah. And they do. Yeah. They miss a lot around the rim, as opposed to just airballing all the time, you know?
Okay, so you want to talk about his 2-point shooting in games. What did you notice there?
Yeah, so, well, we wrote last week that I did not think Phoenix is somehow able to just stop Steph Curry because they had played so well. I think it was Tuesday night or Wednesday night. And they had also done a good job against him the previous game. They are an elite level defense most of the time. And that does provide some degree of discomfort for him, but he's Steph Curry. And so Friday night, he went 6 of 11 from 3, and he didn't play great. No. He shot pretty well from 3. Again, I don't think the Suns have the magic drug. I think they're better than most at guarding him, but he's Steph Curry. He's used to making tough shots. However, he was 2 of 9 from the field, inside 3. And then against the Spurs, they won the game, but against the Spurs, last night or Saturday?
Saturday, yeah.
Yeah, he went 2 of 11 from inside 3. And the Spurs have Jakob Poeltl, very good rim protector. Of course, the Suns have DeAndre Ayton, and both teams have, I think the Suns are quicker, actually. Not the Suns. I think the Spurs are quicker, and the Suns maybe a little bit longer. It's close. DeJounte Murray's a really long dude. And he's just not finishing at the rim quite as well. From 0 to 3 feet this year, he's at 57.6% for the season. Now, that's down after these last 2 games, especially. That is the second lowest number of his career. Still, 57 is good. Not great. You want to be above 64, 65. 39% from 3 to 9 feet, and only 40.7% outside 10 feet. Inside, I think it's 10 to 16 is the measurement they use. Those are all nearing career lows. So it may just be teams are defending him better. It may just be he's just not quite as good at those things. Right now, we need to pay attention because I don't think you can really stop him from making threes. I think consistently, he's just the greatest 3-point shot maker we've ever seen by a huge margin. In fact, he's about to break the all-time record for threes made, and he still has years to go. But it may be where the alternative was, okay, make him attack and then bring help to him, and it still wasn't all that effective. Maybe, Henry, it might be a little bit more effective. We have to see how this plays out. He also has taken some very tough shots. There's some adjustments he can make too, but yeah, it bears watching that maybe there's a little bit of a strategy that can be effective. People have always known to do this, Henry. It just didn't work. Maybe it might work a little bit. We have to see.
Well, he's a tiny man trying to score at the rim, and he's getting older. I mean, at some point, age has to affect him, right? Like this would be one of the places you might see it.
I think exactly that. And also, I think teams are getting better at employing long, agile guys that can both guard the 3 and then crowd the rim. Mm-hmm. This is where the game is going. Everyone is challenged. Most players can't finish great in both places. He was one that really could. Mm-hmm. And now he's still very good compared to a lot of players, but not elite at the rim right now.
Okay. The Rockets have won 6 in a row after losing 15 straight. What changed?
Yeah, so I was trying to figure that out this morning. Like, I don't know. I don't think it's ever happened before. Not a surprise. I don't think there's ever been a team that someone could look this up, but I don't think there's ever been a team that lost 15 straight and then won 6 straight. Mm-hmm. And I had a feeling I knew, but I don't track them every game. And sure enough, Jalen Green didn't play. He played in their first of the 6 wins, which was a nice win against the Bulls. He went 4 or 5 from the field, scored 11 points in the first quarter, I believe. And then tweaked a hamstring that he's had issues with before. And he hasn't played since, and they haven't lost. And it's a reminder that I can't see what Devin put there, but it's a reminder that Jalen Green is really bad at trying to help you win a basketball game as an NBA player his rookie year. Yeah. He's a very, very talented player, but he can't help you win. He pretty much helps you lose. So to me, the question is, all right, now what? He's going to return at some point. He didn't tear his hamstring. He tweaked it. They're taking precautions. So Henry, what do you do with the number 2 pick in the draft, who looks like he might end up being a high-level scorer, who's years away from helping your team actually win games when you're winning when he's not playing. I think they're going to end up playing him. Maybe they play him less because they don't want to lose every single game. Maybe they want to lose every single game and get another top. This is where we'll talk about tanking later. This is gonna bear some fruit. We're gonna find out what they're thinking, because when you play him, what you're saying is, I don't want to win games. Now, I want to win games later for sure, and they're willing to lose with him. We'll see.
I mean, this is the Supersonics with Durant.
Yeah.
Right. They want Westbrook and Harden still, right? So let them figure it out. Let them go out there and miss those shots. Right.
But we know what they can be when he doesn't play. Which is, Eric Gordon is better than him. Hey, no, this isn't breaking news. Eric Gordon is a shadow of his former self, but he still knows how to play.
Yeah.
And Jalen Green does not.
Just to confirm, Devin or Caleb found it. There you go. It's the first time it's ever happened.
That's what I thought. It probably was the case.
Followed by 6 wins. RJ Barrett, who was a very good 3-point shooter for the second half of last season. Caleb. Okay, so just to be clear, so credit goes appropriately. Devin found the answer, and Caleb just stole it. That's what happened. That's what happens. But he attributed it nicely. Okay, here we go. RJ Barrett has briefly been a very, very good 3-point shooter, but not at the present time. And maybe we should listen to his coach.
Well, a couple things. Like, it's similar to last year. I have a lot of confidence in him being able to work his way out of it. When you throw in, he's been sick, so and to me, you get rhythm when you work. And last year he got going when he started coming in every night to shoot. So there's no, notion that, like, okay, I do it sometimes. No, you got to do it all the time. When you did it, you ended up shooting 40 from 3. So get back in the gym, get back to grooving your shot, shoot a lot of threes, and you'll start making more.
Well, he's no Steve Kerr.
No, he would not be mistaken for Steve Kerr. I don't know that I don't know. I know that I don't totally agree with what he's saying if he means thousands of threes. I do agree with the idea of work. I don't know what he did last year. I know that Tom Thibodeau thinks it was because he took a bunch of threes every day in the gym at night. And that's how Tom thinks, as we've talked about Coach Tiz before.
To the hammer, everything looks like a nail, right?
That's right.
Tom is the hammer of hard work, like just
right.
more work.
And maybe in the case of, he would know better than me. I don't know RJ Barrett at all. Whatever was working last year, it's not happening this year. He was at 40% last year, 32%, I think, the year before from 3, 31, I think, or so this year. So it's dropped. But it's an issue. We were really excited about his future, and it's hard to be excited about his future if he's not a good 3-point shooter. He needs that part of his game, I think. But I know this, that human nature is that you relax after a success. And this is we say this all the time. Gerard and I love to say this on Fridays. It's such a hard fucking game, Henry. It's just hard. And as you start shooting 40% from 3, and you're showing it more in scouting reports, and not just scouting reports, but just players are aware, Henry, of what's going on. One of the things I love most about this league is they pay attention. Like, they're watching games when I talk to players at night, they're frequently watching a game of a team they might be playing in a week, or maybe not. Mm-hmm. They played high school with this guy. They played AAU with this guy. They played college against this guy. They're paying attention. And so people know RJ became a much better shooter. And so that's a factor. And it's also, again, the human species tends to relax after having success. And RJ may have relaxed some. This is Thibodeau's way of saying, basically, wake the fuck up. Whatever you're doing last year, get back to doing that. Again, I don't necessarily think you have to make thousands. I do think you have to put in work, for sure. You don't want to overdo it, in my opinion. I'm really careful about that. But he needs to do something.
It's not like last year. Speaking of inspiring coaches, you have a little Nick Nurse tale.
Yeah, I saw this. So he's got a really intriguing. Well, first of all, I can't say Raptors without mentioning Scotty Barnes. This is not about Scotty Barnes, though. Pascal Siakam, who we just wrote about, had I think his best game of the season in their last win. That's encouraging. Their defense is starting to come around, Henry. You would think they'd be a great defensive team, but they have not been. That's starting to come these last 10 games. We're starting to see some of that in Siakam, which we wrote about him specifically last week. We need to see him improve defensively, and it looks like he's maybe trending the other direction. But they have a really interesting I've mentioned once before on our show, 6'8", 6'9" point guard, not Scotty Barnes, named Delano Banton, not an L in the name, from Nebraska. And he can't shoot. And he won't shoot threes. And so Nick Nurse had him, and the other player they have, Justin Champagny, maybe?
Yeah.
Who's a Todd Ramisar client. They sent those two guys down to their G League team, which is, I remember Masai telling me, I don't know exactly where it's located, but I think it's 15 minutes away from their home arena. So they can, this is how it should be working, by the way, for every team. So that they can go to the NBA games, practice the NBA team, go down and play the G League team. There's just a fluidity there that I think is ideal. And Nick Nurse told Banton, I'm gonna send you down because he's getting playing time a lot with the Raptors. And he said, I need you to shoot 5 threes in the game, and at least 5. And he took 8 and only made 2. But who cares? Like, great job, Coach Nurse. Let them know they can fail, and you're going to embrace them, because the big picture is what you're hoping to get. And by the way, he had 23 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists, and Champagny had 34 and 9. They lost the game, but this is their future too. But these guys are, the Raptors might be the best defensive team in the league for quite a while at some point, and these guys become, get to that point. So, I just think the Raptors get it. Like, they know how to do this kind of stuff.
Yeah. No, it's fun to watch. That's the G League coaching job you would want, right? Like, that's the G League team.
You're exactly right.
Yeah.
As someone who knows some G League coaches, not everyone is lucky enough to have that. Not to say that anyone disrespects their G League coach or anything like that, but I think there are some teams reticent to let players go down.
Yeah. And
I think that's a big mistake. And I think 10 years from now, it's going to be normal for this movement back and forth. It may be 5 years from now, but it's how it should be.
It's got to be a little weird too. There's like, oh yeah, okay, we're going to have 2 NBA players and they have to take 5 threes. Like, all right, never mind everything we just practiced today. You know what I mean?
Well, it's a great point. This is baked into the system. The best G League coaches understand and have warned their team and prepared the team that normally they have, that the guys that are rostered players with the varsity, they have carte blanche to some degree anyway. It's how a team can build, that's how you develop talent. You got to let them breathe and fail, right?
Yeah. Okay, so the Blazers are such an interesting team right now. They're not terrible, but they're just blowing apart in so many strange ways. Recapping last summer, Damian Lillard had his summer of discontent and wanted to be contending, whether that was in Portland or elsewhere. So the Blazers are like on the clock to please their star who has some leverage. Meanwhile, so much reporting to get into here, mostly from The Athletic, but they've been killing it. Multiple sources have told The Athletic that Lillard would like to play with Philadelphia 76ers 3-time All-Star Ben Simmons. I've also heard this. The Trailblazers' league worst defense would instantly improve, and sharing a backcourt with a non-shooter could work given Lillard's high volume usage. Sources say the Blazers under Olshey discussed the framework of a trade for Simmons, moving CJ McCollum, a first-round draft pick, and a young player such as Nasir Little or Anthony Simons to Philadelphia. The 76ers sources said at one point asked the Trailblazers for McCollum and multiple draft picks and multiple draft swaps. That sounds like Daryl, which Portland rejected. Olshey maintained significant confidence in the roster he constructed. Now it's unclear if there's a deal to be had with the 76ers. Right off the top, what are your thoughts about that?
I have many, but let me start with one and go back and forth with you. You have quoted this many times, I think. I know we've talked about it. The name of this game at this level, tell me if you think I'm wrong, Henry, that I'm misquoting or misparaphrasing what we've heard, is to get players that are worth more than what you're paying them. Mm-hmm. One of the keys to the rookie contracts, it's one of the keys to the superstar max deals. They're worth 70 and you're paying them 30 or 40 or they're 50. Okay. CJ McCollum is not that guy. he cannot play to his contract.
Mhm.
Does that sound like a Daryl Morey deal to get CJ? And by the way, he's so similar in many respects to Seth Curry. In fact, Steph's a better shooter. CJ's a better shot creator. But when you have Joel Embiid, it's not that hard.
But he has a good podcast. Let's not forget that.
No, I'm not. Yeah, I'm not trusting CJ. I've never thought this argument with CJ had merit because Daryl Morey is maybe the best guy. He might be the most stubborn guy, not doing deals for players that are being paid more than their value. So I today got on one of my trade machines and tried to figure out a third team for CJ, and I couldn't. Doesn't mean someone wouldn't take him. Someone always has, but it wasn't easy. I can't really find a team that say we need CJ to solve our problems. And so I just don't see that having legs.
Well, I mean, I have assumed that like McCollum wouldn't anchor a Simmons trade, but it's interesting that they, according to sources, actually proposed one, right? That Daryl was in on, according to this, right? For multiple draft picks, multiple draft swaps.
But
that was interesting to me.
Well, that was my next thing I was going to say is Daryl might know of someone that would want CJ. And so, but we know Daryl wants a hell of a player or, and
we know he hired Damian Lillard's trainer, college assistant coach. Like,
right. So
that's a
fair to say that's who he wants. There's no question that's who he wants. But if he can't get Dame and doesn't want CJ, the Bradley Beal thing is there. Tobias Harris has not been doing great. I don't think he wants Jeremy Grant because he's getting paid a lot of money. But the point is, does Daryl now think about plan B? And that would be stocking up on assets that I can move for someone to pair with Embiid later. I buy that. But he's not, I don't think he's going to be pulling the trigger anytime soon. And as we discussed this whole Portland thing, it's all about right now.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's keep going. There's so much to get into here.
Yeah.
Okay. So meanwhile, Chauncey Billups, it's so weird that 20 minutes ago, it seems he was like the most tenuous employee, right? He was the one who was barely got his job, lots of controversy. Now that Neil Lachey's been fired, no one knows who's going to run the front office. Like Chauncey Billups suddenly, and Damian is in or out, we don't know. Chauncey's suddenly the franchise. Like he's like the Rock, but the bad news there is nobody likes him. I could paraphrase, but okay. I'll read a couple things from Jason Quick. This is from Friday. Under Billups, mistakes are no longer allowed to slide because of your salary, your tenure, or your contract status. Billups has won a title as a player, and he says he knows the Blazers have to become more aggressive defensively than under Stotts. They need to share the ball more than they did. When players stray from that, they are being called out during play, during timeouts, in halftime speeches, and in film sessions. And from the looks of it, the exchanges are not going well. And then Jason Quick asked Chauncey about this. And he says, it's not easy all the time to hear when you are not doing what you're supposed to do, especially from the coach. All I care about is I believe we should play one way. I know what wins. I know what's important. When we don't do it, obviously, I'm going to always bring it to the table, to those players, to those people. And I know it's not always going to be well received. But I know it's the best thing for the team. It's the best thing for the player. And the end of the day, if you're mad or upset, if you actually really want to win and be a good teammate, you go home and think about it, look yourself in the mirror, and you're going to realize that I was saying was right, with no agenda at all, other than for us to try and get better. So I can ride with that. That's just kind of who I was as a player, who I am as a person, and I will be consistent there. And then one of the Athletic commenters said, you don't shit on your team in public like that, ever. Chauncey seems like a nightmarish boss. What's your take?
Well, we discussed this preseason when we heard or read or something that they were going to change their defensive strategy and bring more pressure to the ball on pick and roll, ball screens, without a roster that really suggested they could do that. The Warriors can do that. Speed is how you would best define Golden State's top talent on defense. I don't think a team with CJ and Dame and Nurk is a team you would say speed is an adjective that best fits how they're playing their best. And yet they're trying to do it that way, and they've only gotten worse at it. And so I have alarm bells reading that quote, because that to me is a coach who thinks we can only win playing this way, but he's not dovetailing it to the roster that he has.
Yeah.
I heard Steve Kerr talking on a podcast. I was talking about Jon Stewart's podcast, and he was telling Jon Stewart, who's a big Knicks fan, I talked to, my guy, Phil Jackson, about the Knicks job, but then I could go coach Steph Curry and Clay and Draymond Green. I chose that. And he talked about, at the end of the day, talent matters a ton. And of course, Steve is very self-deprecating and humble, and his contributions. I don't think Mark Jackson ever wins a championship there. That doesn't mean Mark Jackson couldn't win one day because he got better as a coach, but there, they were just playing a certain way, and Steve Kerr needed some innovative stuff, and the Cuisinart was invented, and that history has been made. Chauncey just is too early into his career as a coach to understand that pride just gets in the way of all that. Like, stop thinking about the way and start saying, I want to find some way. Big difference in attitude. If you start saying that and get the team to buy into, let's be Ty Lue. Let's just keep trying shit and see what sticks early on, especially then maybe you have a better culture. Like, you're all in it together. But right now it's us versus you. Like, okay, you think we should be playing this way, but none of us really are buying it because we're not succeeding. And now there's such an impasse. I don't think that's wise.
There's a profound issue here. There's so much going on. Oh, David, you used to say to me that, like, a lot of people can coach some kinds of players, but how many different kinds of players can you reach, right? And leadership is breathing spirit in people. I'm like, yeah. Who has had spirit breathed into them by Chauncey Billups, right? Like, it might be the case that there are Blazers who are singing his praises right now, but they've been quiet. It would make a big difference. Like, this kind of tough talk would be different if, like, there's a couple of ne'er-do-wells who need a little goosing, but this seems like he's just yelling into the chasm. Like, just stop yelling, sir. You know what I mean?
Well, look at it, but just look at it on its face. They were, tell me if I'm wrong, were they number 2 in offense last year?
Something like that, yeah.
Which means they were the second best performing offense of all time, probably. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And now not. Mm-hmm. Okay, they're not terrible on offense, and Dame's been shooting terribly. Maybe it's because the system they're using, maybe not. That's a separate issue. We've written and discussed this a little bit, but they knew they had to get better defensively, and they're worse. So it's hard for these players. We've talked.
They're the worst team in the league defensively now.
Right, right, exactly. It's hard. We talked about this when you say to a player, "This is how you'll be successful," and the player is thinking, "But I made the All-Star game last year playing a different way." We have this whole team collectively saying that. Like, Chauncey, like, yeah, we get it. You're not in the Hall of Fame. Maybe you'll get there. Maybe you won't. We get that you're a lottery pick. We get that you won a title, but you didn't invent this game for sure. We've had success too, and you don't respect us as professional athletes. Now, when Chauncey talks about a lack of toughness, that's what honestly, I mean this sincerely. When coaches start talking about that, that's the end for me. Everyone can play with more toughness, almost for sure. When you start saying that publicly, you're calling them out. It's the equivalent of having that dude, John and I talked about him on Friday, making his team run sprints in a game. Yeah. When you start challenging their toughness publicly the way he did, the curtains are closed.
Well, it's dignity. You're getting to their dignity.
Yeah. I think you've lost them at that point. And because you're also saying, well, it's not my fault. And that's where I think is a huge mistake.
I'm going to throw in some more logs on this fire here. Blazers opened as a team in 1970, and I think it's safe to say they've been like the only show in town sports wise pretty much since then, unrivaled. They haven't really had to compete with an NFL team or an NBA team. But on Saturday, the Portland Timbers, the MLS team, made the MLS Cup, which will happen this coming Saturday. And Judy, maybe you can show this little video of the fans.
Electric.
A packed out stadium for the anthem. And they stand and sing in a rainstorm all game long.
Yeah.
Like, everybody's standing and singing. And it just struck me. I'm like, that's a much smaller stadium than the Blazers have, and the tickets are cheaper. Not that cheap, though. And I'm like, are the Blazers Portland's favorite team? Like, this might be the first time since 1970 that this NBA team, which has had this love affair with the city, it's just a bad moment to be bad, right? The Timbers are maybe going to be world champions next Saturday. And come on, if you're a Portland fan, like,
not world champions, but league champions. Yeah.
Sorry.
No, and by the way, that stadium didn't look that small to me. Do you know
No,
what
it's not
their-
that small, but yeah.
Yeah.
no.
What is their, like, what can they get in that soccer stadium?
Remember, that sounds like a quiz to me.
I knew you were going to say. By the way, hello, Dr. Ladoc. Thank you for, I haven't seen you in a bit. If you have been here, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I missed you, Bilal, but I'm
Raising
really
children.
glad to see you.
Um,
So I think it's such an insightful point you bring up. And, but it's easy not to really love the Trailblazers right now. It's just a lot of, when have they had good news?
that night. The Celtics, that video we just showed, the Celtics come to town. One of the Celtics players is from a suburb of Portland, Peyton Pritchard's from West Lynn, and they have a party. Like, Celtics fans have a party in the Blazers arena. Lillard walks out. He's so mad. They're at one point pretending that they're dead on the bench and dragging him off. They're just like, it's a party. And like, that is not the kind of thing that has happened in that arena. The team president, Chris McGowan, recently resigned. Portland's now officially, after this weekend, the worst defensive team in the NBA. And on top of all that, we're about to have the most lucrative revenue sharing in the history of the league. And John Hollinger's written about this, others have. Portland is $3 million above the line, so they'll be taxpayers. So they need to shed salary a little bit to get on the gravy train, right? It's almost a certainty that they're going to make this choice, right? And we know from the past, when Paul Allen was alive, Jody Allen was like big on like, this team is just too expensive, right? And so they're gonna, in all of this, with all this mess and the need to like upgrade the roster, they're probably going to downgrade the roster because they need to get rid of, Robert Covington or Yusuf Nurkic or Anthony Simons to get below this tax line.
Well, let's take it a step further, Henry. They should get rid of everybody.
Well,
think about them being like Houston. Just trade Dame, trade CJ, trade Nurk, trade maybe keep Simons. He's pretty young. Little's young. Norman Powell. These guys, all of them except for, well, I'm not sure how many people would want Nurk either. But and CJ will be a little bit challenging to trade too. But just start over. You fire Chauncey, which they won't do probably. And I'm not even saying they should. Chauncey's allowed to figure it out. Like, I'm a big believer, although I would sit down with him and I would whisper to him very quietly, we just fired our GM for being a jerk. There might be some other things he was also, but what we're not going to do, Coach Billups, is be indecent to our talent. We've done this, right? Terry Stotts was a good man from all accounts, and we had good success. Our GM wasn't, and he's gone. And you're going to be gone too if you don't change how you approach this. But you can change that. Doesn't mean you can't be a tough coach. But we're going to load you up with young players and give you a couple years to instill in them, shape them the way you want them shaped. Because these guys have habits that you don't like, clearly. So let's get you a bunch of new guys. Think about the talent haul you can take in. You can get Tyrese Maxey for sure. For sure, you get Tyrese Maxey and probably 3 or 4 other good young Sixers players in that deal. Don't you think?
Yeah, it comes down to excuse me. Right before the show started, I like desperately had to sneeze, but then didn't, and I was like, it's gonna come at some point. It's hiding in there. So pardon me. All right. So the big thing is you're on borrowed time with Damian's willingness to be a Blazer, right? Like, we stand by our reporting from the summer, like, the Blazers had some kind of message, right? They were like, oh, let us try to make these deals. So now the question is, do you make a bunch of trades to keep Damian so he can contend there, right? Or do you make a bunch of trades to trade Damian, right? And try to, as you say, get younger, right? You can't do both, right? There's no kind of way. And I don't see a lot of reporting about this, but it seems to me like the trade Damian move is far better. Because I don't think you can actually contend with him. So instead, what you do is trade all your future tax income, trade all of your future draft picks and assets to also be a middling team for the medium term and then be terrible, right? It seems like that kind of a move where you have a fire sale of all your assets to just win now is the kind of thing you do when you're a 55 win team, but not when you're scrapping for the last playoff spot.
Listen, Damian knew this in the summer of his discontent, which was this last summer.
Yeah.
Like he knew this was coming.
Nothing's changed for him, right? Like, it's just he just gave him a little time, right, to
Yeah.
work it out, and it hasn't gone well.
Right. Just it's the exact opposite of what they hoped the movie script would be.
Yeah.
So to me, the smart move is, especially because you got to hire a new executive anyway, at least unless you're just going to promote from within, which is fine. But it seems like a good time as any. It's probably as great a time as any to go ahead and press that reset button. And you know me, I don't like tanking. I like to find a way to win 41 and then build the 50 from there. But that's not typically how teams do it. So now's the time. And this is a good draft class coming up.
All right. So Joe Cronin is temporarily running the team. According to Jason Quick, he's a mild-mannered, broad-shouldered. By the way, if anyone's ever called broad-shouldered in print, that means they're with the source. That's what that means. Is a mild-mannered, broad-shouldered, soft-speaking brainiac who can practically recite the gobbledygook of the NBA collective bargaining agreement. He was brought on board in 2006 as an intern by then general manager Kevin Pritchard, and he made himself indispensable by studying and mastering the salary cap. 4 years later, he was promoted to scout and salary cap analyst. When O'Shea was hired in 2012, he kept Cronin. After working with for 2 years, O'Shea promoted him to director of player personnel. This past summer was promoted to assistant GM. So the ideas they're going to bring in, you can see in various reporting, Danny Ainge, Allison Feaster, Brent Barry, Jeff Peterson, who's with the Nets, Michael Winger from the Clippers, Sharif Abdur-Rahim, Mark Eversley of the Bulls, or Knicks general manager Scott Perry are some of the names around to possibly replace him or take the job permanently. It also has been reported that Cronin is a candidate. It's also been reported that he's not a candidate. But here's my thought is it wouldn't be the dumbest thing to have the temporary guy trade Dame.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you got to bring in
exactly. And then you don't make him the permanent guy.
Yeah.
So the new guy, the permanent guy doesn't have that on his resume.
Yeah. Because from afar, Blazer fans will be like, what's wrong with that guy, Joe Cronin? What an idiot.
Yeah. That's a little bit three-dimensional, and I don't know that they're run that way, but you're right. You're right. The bigger question, Henry, is who's in charge? Is Damian in charge? Which means is Aaron Goodwin / Damian in charge? I don't know the answer. We're gonna find out, right? Yeah. If you knew who Aaron Goodwin wanted most, because that's who Damian wanted most, and that's who got it, we connect those dots very quickly.
Yeah, that's how this is, and also this gets really into like the underbelly of the NBA and like how things happen in shady ways, and all these people have agents, right? And their deals to be cut. There's actually one other part of this is Neil O'Shea's agent represents like a lot of the executives around the NBA, and it looks like the Blazers are going to fight on paying him the reportedly $20 million he's owed.
Oh wow.
That fight could get incredibly ugly. It wouldn't surprise me if Neil sued the team, and then like, are you really going to get another one of that agent's clients right then? Like, even I'm sure he's willing. Don't get me wrong. Like Warren will take his commission and get you the next person, but is the team going to want to do that while they're in an active lawsuit? It just seems like they're in a constrained environment here. Like it's a soap opera. And
so because the agent in question can negotiate a settlement, keep the blood positive, and then bring his next guy in, and the team might benefit from that too. They're going to hire someone anyway, and maybe get the new guy in, and you've saved money on what you end up paying O'Shea in a settlement, because what they're saying, they can fire him for cause and not have to pay him.
There are conflicting reports on that, but that's this is the point of the investigation, right?
Yeah,
like
right.
I suggest to you that they didn't want O'Shea starting when he was unpopular over the summer with the Billups hire, right? But they owe him $20-odd million, so they hire a law firm which finds stuff that they probably could have found at any time in the last decade, but they find it now. So it's like, oh, look, he's, this is, I suspect what we're going to see, right? They're going to make an argument that he's been fired for cause, and that's why. I mean, we also know that basically there was a move to start like a GM association when the reporting of the O'Shea behind the scenes stuff started coming out, right? It's like, well, GMs are worried about the salaries, right? They don't make an association because they love Neil, right? There's also a little bit of like, for people who are in the O'Shea camp, the story is, which includes a lot of people, like a lot of people are O'Shea fans in the NBA. And the story is that he was vastly underpaid forever, and then finally got like a make good deal to like fill in their income he didn't get before. Now they're taking that one, right? Now they're not going to pay that one. Like, it's going to be a bloody battle, right? It's not a casual 20 mil to Neil Lachey, right? Like,
yeah, no.
And the way they fired him, like, a year ago, if they fired him, he was running a different team now, right? He'd get another job. But now it's a little ugly, right? Like,
yeah, I was going to say that to you. I was going to ask you, do you think he's employable?
I mean, a lot of billionaires are so tone deaf they don't even notice or care these things. But I mean, it's not great. His name is not good at the moment, right? After
and someone put in the chat that some of the fans in Portland reacted to Chauncey being hired. And remember how Neil handled that? We've forgotten that. I had forgotten that until just now, but that's going to be dug up if he ever surfaces again. That he basically claims he checked in everything. Trust me, I did it. You wrote a piece on it, whatever. Yeah. Talked a lot about it, but it's all there in Google. It's searchable.
Oh yeah, no, that's his brand now. Yeah,
that's problematic for him.
Gerard Hector, are you available?
Oh, he's available.
Oh, he's available.
He's got.
There he is.
I resent that remark.
Still accurate though. I knew you were ready to go. What's your thoughts on this?
Look, Portland is like, it's a dumpster fire. Like, I don't know what is happening over there. I mean, I know what's happening, but it's just not a place where I think as a player you'd want to be right now, right? Like, the NBA has a bunch of teams in markets and areas that are not conducive for young rich men to live in, right? For a variety of reasons. Now you throw this on top of the fact, it's like you're setting your organization back, I don't know, a dozen years. What? I have no idea, right? Like, this is not good. And Damien's doing his thing and wants to play the good soldier, but it's like, my guy, no one's going to blame you. You want to just cut bait. Right. Like, literally, it's a disaster. Run off the sinking ship. It's fine.
I was thinking, Gerard, Henry, I was thinking that with what Gerard just said, this is to me the classic case of we're in a hole and let's just stop digging, because they've been in a hole for a bit and they keep digging it. It's the old lipstick on a pig thing. It's not solving anything. It is what it is. Now's the time. Let's put the fire out, right? Let's just, Dame, where do you want to go? Philadelphia, great. And
he doesn't want to go to Philadelphia though. That's the problem. Like, he wants to play with Ben Simmons,
but not in Philadelphia.
Well, but this is what I was just, that's true. And,
or in Philadelphia, I think is fine. But
yeah,
how's Philadelphia going to get Dame without giving up Ben Simmons?
Yeah,
right. Yeah, exactly. No, I hear you. So I think it's going, and then if you traded Damien for Ben Simmons, Portland could then trade Ben, because even getting Ben back, you're not solving the Rubik's Cube we're talking about here. So now you've got Ben Simmons and you can put wherever he wants to go, that kind of thing. But and everyone else got to go too. Like, it's a dumpster fire, start over.
I think sometimes it seems like we're a little hard on the NBA here, but I would just point out that, like, it's hard to point to anybody in the organization who's been very competent over the last decade. This is the NBA team with the longest active playoff streak. Like, this is one of the better run teams, which is not saying it's well run. It's saying every other team is run worse. Almost every team, right? Here and there, there's a well run team, but mostly, like, these billionaires hire people who sound right to the billionaires, and it goes very badly, right? It's only because the players are so dedicated and hardworking that, like,
well, that's something that you hit on, Henry, right there, right? And you mentioned it earlier. The likelihood that Jody Allen realizes, I need to change things around here. It's like, that's not a thing. Like, because she doesn't think anything's the problem.
Like, she's really upset that Neil Lachey said mean things to people in the hallway. Like, no.
No. But the woman who steals penguin skulls and, like, has her security people dance around naked, like, or in their underwear, like, no, I don't think she cares.
It doesn't totally. Yes, Caleb, that's what happened. We wrote a story about it. There are reports from, like, the Seattle media. She literally got in trouble for having skulls from a part of Antarctica where you're not allowed to go, of penguins. And her security detail said that she was recurringly having them wear skimpy outfits and dance around. I think she was in a hot tub, stuff like that. Whatever. What the hell?
Problems.
Why is this stuff we have to know about just because you like basketball? Yeah. No, it seems to me like just like it's not going to make sense to try to get really good with Dame, right? The math isn't right? Like David's saying you can't get anything for CJ, which would be like, so we got expiring Nurk, injured right now, Anthony Simons,
right?
Like there's no scenario here where you end up with a contending team.
No.
I tell you what, to turn CJ into a positive is going to require a lot of work. It's possible. You have to have the foresight of grabbing players. As an example, Marvin Bagley. It represents there's certain players that have real potential, and their team might just want to get rid of them, and would be willing to take CJ, who would be an improvement. I'm not even saying the Kings would do it, but you got to find stuff like that. You got to find potential gems that may end up being awful, but it's going to take some work. Yeah, it's not going to happen easily.
All right, is that enough Blazers for everybody? Should we? Honestly, should we just be soccer fans? I think
Portland. I was going to say it's not Timbers. Who are they playing in the final? I don't even know.
New York. It's going to be like honestly, it's super fun to watch. I watched the last couple games.
Or is it two
one
games?
game? One game for all the cookies. Yep.
Oh, really? Where do they play it at?
In Portland.
Isn't Seattle also like they get crazy fans too, don't they?
The Sound? Yeah, they're pretty good.
Portland, Seattle, like really.
Oh yeah, that's big soccer news. Look at Greg shouting out my guy Triple J in the chat. Loving it. By the way, if you look right now, Triple J, throughout his career right now, highest estimated plus minus in his career right now.
Yep, he's coming.
Good things are happening. We're liking it.
We were noting it looks like we have 4 tanking teams for real. You agree? It's the Thunder, Pistons, Rockets, and Magic.
I don't.
You don't.
But I'm quibbling over something very small.
The Magic.
Yes, but only. But you're not wrong. I think they're trying. They're just playing a bunch of young guys, and they're going to stink. Yeah. You know what I mean? I think that Jalen Suggs is a rookie. He's going to be bad. Franz Wagner's a rookie who looks really good, but he's still a rookie. Cole Anthony's playing great. He's in year 2. Bamba and Wendell Carter they're coming. Like we may have a situation, guys. We've got the Cavs with Mobley and Jared Allen, and the Magic with Carter and Bamba.
That's
with little guards that can play. Like it's interesting what we're seeing there. So when you say tanking, I think you're right in the sense that management knows this is not the best product we can put on the floor, but it gives us the best chance, forget about just draft picks, with these guys to be good in a couple of years to play and lose. And they've had some impressive wins, Orlando has. The Rockets too. The Rockets have won 6 in a row. Like, how was that tanking when they've lost 6? They've won 6 in a row. They did lose 15 straight.
Tanking.
I don't think tanking is ever, other than the Blazers on defense on Saturday, just like players not playing hard, right? I think tanking is
a systemic effort to lose.
Yeah, right. It's a front office structural thing where you're like, we're just playing the young guys. And frankly, with an eye on next year's draft, right? The Thunder are like,
I was gonna say that's how you get blown out by 73 points when you right, like it's like what?
But the weirdness is I did look that the Thunder are about equivalent to the Sixers on defense.
Yeah, there's some interesting numbers on the Thunder's defensively. Yeah.
They're trying.
I mean, these guys, this is where I'm glad you said what you said, Henry. There's no coach that's trying to lose. There's no players that are trying to lose. It's management decision. Did you read Hollinger's article, which took me a minute to realize he was being sarcastic?
It was a new brand of humor from John. It was a very unusual thing.
Did you see it, Gerard?
No, I didn't.
He wrote basically saying it's time to bring in the Colangelos to OKC.
I saw the guideline for that.
Yeah, and I thought, boy, why would John write that? I saw the headline. Then I started reading it, and I thought, what is John like? Who grabbed his account? Like, I know John Hunter doesn't think this way, and then because I'm slow, I realized that he's just being sarcastic. He was running satire. You know what I mean? So they're loaded for the future.
Yeah, I mean, so it's an interesting point he was making, though, right? In his way that probably threw off 95% of readers. But like he's basically saying that like Sam Hinkie was, doing exactly what the Thunder are doing right now, and then they blew it up for Colangelos, who didn't do a good job, right? And it's just it's whatever the fix is for what's happening in Oklahoma City, like it's probably not a fix, right?
That won't be one of them.
Well, the difference is, right, is Hinkie put his name to it, right? Like he went out and told you, no, we're doing this on purpose because this is actually the best thing to do. Whereas Presti is not saying any of that, right? Like he's like, I'm not calling it anything, and he operates in a media market that allows him to do that and all, there's a whole lot of different things why it's like easier for Presti to pull this off than it was for Hinkie.
Sam tried really hard not to say anything about it. He actually never said the process.
Where'd that come from?
That was just, it came from like, it just trust the process came from a podcast. Yeah. Like that was never, he never said those words. And he basically didn't talk to anyone. He wanted to just be like, oh, just head down, working, and but people just, that's a pretty big market, and it made a lot of news, and it helps me in Oklahoma City, I think.
I was gonna say no, because what national media is going on in Oklahoma City asking questions? Like nobody. Not
a big number. No. Or people don't feel the hurt of it too, right? They don't feel like nobody's, very few national media members have grandparents who forked over a bunch of money for season tickets to Thunder. Right.
Mm-hmm.
All right, David, you fun-loving guy. You want to talk about the variants of the COVID virus?
Yeah, I wanted. Well, LeBron tested positive and then didn't. Yeah. And we've got Henry. Gerard and I talked about this last week. We're starting to see some more positives. I think LaMelo and Rozier are out in Charlotte. Gerard, I was talking to Henry before the show. They don't know a lot yet about the Omicron virus, but they do know doesn't look great for kids. They're being hospitalized a lot more over there. And so what I said to Henry, and I want to get, he's always thought so big and written a lot about this. The NBA's tested a ton. The bubble was incredible, how they pulled it off. We were all skeptical. The worst case scenario for the NBA when they went back so early and we were all concerned about it is if a player gets sick and dies. These guys are pretty much all vaccinated now, except for a few. But the next terrible thing would be a player's child is hospitalized, and he got it from dad, who got it from somebody he played against. Like, this has got scary scenarios. So what's the process they have to follow, given Omicron at the very least seems far more transmissible based on the studies we've seen than Delta? Not necessarily a worse disease, that we don't know that yet. We just know it's because there's such a lagging indicator. So what's the process, Henry? With LeBron very angry about what happened to him. So kind of walk us through that thread of what they need to do going forward.
Well, I'm going to just add one more fact here, which is these new medicines, right? I'm a big fan of David Leonhardt of the New York Times. He's written about some stuff that I was super involved in years ago. And like all of the academics were like, David Leonhardt's ability to process the data is like super top notch. Like he's very, very wise in the conclusions he draws from the research that's available. I'm going to read a little bit of David from you. Pfizer's version, which is likely to become widely available early next year, appears to be the more effective. It's reduced the risk of hospitalization or death by 85% in a research trial. Merck's version should be available sooner, reduced risk by 30%. An advantage is that they do not attack the part of the virus that changes most with each new variant, the spike protein. That's why scientists expect the treatments will work even as the virus evolves. Pfizer has projected they will produce enough doses to treat 20 million people in the first half of next year and another 60 million in the second half. The Biden administration has agreed to buy 10 million of the treatments known as Paxlovid at a cost of $530 each. Americans will probably not have to pay much, if anything, out of pocket. And then how about this? In truth, the virus has already been largely defanged for most Americans, and it would be surprising if Omicron changed that. The death rate for vaccinated adults under 50 is virtually zero. According to data from Minnesota and King County, Washington, which published detailed statistics, the hospitalization rate is similar to that of a typical flu. For children, vaccinated or not, the risks are even smaller.
Pretty good stuff.
I think, Henry, that particular Pfizer drug was so successful in their studies that they had to cancel the study. You know about this?
Yeah, they cut it short so they could get it out.
It was unethical. People were getting sick and going to the hospital when they got the placebo, and no one was having that issue. Almost no one. Yeah. When they got the actual drug. And so this happens in science. It's unethical to let people continue to get sick when you know it's working with those side effects. So yeah, that's super encouraging too. But nonetheless, how do we get to the NBA? Because I think I read the 17th, they have to start, any unvaccinated guy has to get tested every day. Like, what do you think?
Yeah, so they're, I think they're using tests as, well, these drugs you need, well, as studied, you need to take them 3 to 5 days from onset of symptoms, and you get a positive test. So, Joe Biden's talked about, we're going to test hell out everybody.
Yeah.
Free at home tests, etc. So that will have to happen, right? The NBA's ahead on this, right? I think it sounds a little bit using the annoying constant testing, which takes a while and annoys LeBron and other people, as a little bit of punishment for not getting vaccinated, right? They're going to say, like last year when they got tested every day, you're back in that if you're not vaccinated. So, Michael Mina's come on the show and told us this is how it works, right? Is if you're going to have to get you got to take the infected person out of the pool early, right? Constant testing is how you do it. So I think that's, Bilal's a doctor. We should probably just listen to him.
And I think it's interesting too to see, how many people of the NBA population, we talk about 90% vaccinated or whatever the number they throw out there is, how many of those are full vax versus they took one shot vax?
Yeah.
And how many people within the NBA population are boosted? I know that they're pushing all the team officials to do that, which is of course what they do always, because team officials the team personnel have no, like, you know what I mean? Like, to make it simpler, even though this is not what I mean, they don't matter, right? The players are who matter, right? The players have the power and be like, no, I'm not doing this. You work for a team, no, you're getting fully vaxxed, you're getting a booster, whatever. They make them do that. The guys on the team, well, depending on who you are, there's pushback there. So I'd be curious to see what those things look like and what that situation is.
Yeah, they don't have a union. The players have a union, and just I really feel like they kind of screwed up when they didn't force the players to get vaccinated.
Yeah, for sure.
That was a big loss.
Mandates work.
Yeah, they do.
What's the latest on Kyrie, Gerard?
Kyrie's like not returning text messages. Like
that's what I've heard. He's just out of it right now, right?
Yeah, he's just doing his own thing. Like,
what are the Nets going to do, Gerard?
It would be easier for them from just a team dynamic standpoint to trade Harden, actually, right? Just because that would be an easier conversation for Katie to have than the trading Kyrie thing, right? But they're moving on as though he is not part of them, right? Like they're doing what they've got to do. I think that, as I said before, this team right now, they're building an identity of how they want to play. And, coach, like bringing in a new person is going to, well, it doesn't matter how good they are or whatever, is going to be, now we have to change again because this is a whole new variable being put into this chemistry equation that we have going on here. And, there has to be a timetable on, look, like this is going to mess up. So you can't, and so the Kyrie trade would be the easiest thing. And that's what we know been reported in terms from Shams and people like that. That's the only way he's going to play because he's not taking the vaccine. But, it's going to be a tough trade for them to get okayed from Kevin.
Honestly, the Pfizer drug might change things for Kyrie.
It might.
If we're not so scared of people getting infected, then
right.
maybe they drop those rules in the cities.
Well, that goes to your point. Yeah, they should be the Michael Mina tests wasn't so invasive the way those other tests were, where they the deep nasal swabs.
That's a drug called the vaccine.
Yeah,
that drug's very effective. Yeah, yeah.
That's the way to do it. You're right. Is just the rapid test, the saliva test. And because the 3 to 5 days, how do you know you have it? A lot of times you're not really showing symptoms, or you think you have a sore throat.
Well, people are getting quick turn PCR results. You just have to pay for it, right? Like you can get your PCR. Like if you're taking a flight to England or whatever, there's a special little clinic where you get your PCR results like immediately.
Yeah, my wife had to do it going to Hawaii. Hawaii really shuts all that stuff down. You have to do the same thing coming back, I think, too.
Yeah. There's a dirty rumor from Caleb in the chat, Kyrie for Dame.
I was going to ask you, before you wrote that, I was going to ask, what is Oregon's laws regarding that?
I think only a few cities have those laws.
So he might be able to go and play.
Yeah. There might be other reasons not to do that trade. But,
Brooklyn may do it.
Namely, Henry doesn't want it.
No, honestly, Kyrie's super good. Like, let's not get it confused. And we don't have much time, but like the idea was that the Nets were going to just kind of have such good offense, the defense didn't matter. And wow, we've changed a lot, right? Their defense is pretty good.
Yeah.
And their offense is like what, 8th or 9th or something.
Yeah, offense is meh, and their defense is like pretty good.
Pretty good. It's a big difference.
Can I just say one thing real quick? Judy's heartbeat is just pounding right now. See, there you go. We should probably discuss this offline. Right. We know, Judy, we got it. We're watching too.
So we just keep talking just to upset her.
No.
All right.
You said it, not me.
Okay.